normal mnemonic. So diphtheria, diphtheroids are a big tick mark. I'm now going to move on to the next and we are going to finish off these set. Nocardia, Actinomycetes and Listeria. Let's wrap up these three. Having completed the diphtheria and the family, we are now going to move on to the other gram-positive bacilli, and they include these three: Nocardia, Actinomyces, Listeria, of which Nocardia and Actinomyces will be taken together because they come under the filamentous organisms. Now, before I start with these gram-positive filamentous organisms, like I told you, Nocardia and Actinomyces, I want to tell you a nice little story. Seems to be something like what we used to read in our storybooks. This is nature. You will be learning Nocardia as nature. What are the good things that nature gives you? Nature has given us the good things like oxygen. It has given us good things like soil. And then there are certain bad things which we have had forced the nature to give us, like carbon, like acid rain. Right? So because of human activities, a lot of these things are also forming, and that is what is Nocardia. So now if I ask you, what are the good things that nature has given you? Your first answer is that Nocardia is going to be nature, and that is a strict aerobe, means it requires oxygen. So the good part about nature has been mentioned. The second good part was that the soil, yes, Nocardia is exogenous. It is present in the soil. It is never inside our body. It is not a commensal or a habitant of our body. It is not endogenous. It is exogenous. So oxygen ho gaya, soil ho gaya. The next thing that you will ask me is, what are the bad things that nature had? So Nocardia, number one, had acid rain. Acid rain basically means, writing the mnemonic side by side, acid rain means it is acid fast, 1% acid fast. So have a look at this picture. Look at this. I just told you that Nocardia is a gram positive. So matlab, yes, gram positive means purple. And I said it is a filamentous organism. So of course I can see the filaments also coming nicely out of it. But then I'm saying it is 1% acid fast, which means what is the stain that I'm using? The Zn stain. And you can see on Zn stain, we always get a red color organism. So that entire clump has become red. That is what we have for Nocardia. So one bad thing of the nature we've done the acid rain. Now we'll do the second bad thing, and that is going to be carbon. The second bad thing of nature is going to be carbon. So please remember that Nocardia says that I need carbon. So Nocardia says, if you want me to grow, you will have to give me carbon. So what will I do? I will do culture with paraffin bait technique. Do you guys know what is bait? Like for example, when you go fishing. For fishing, you put a little bit of food, then only the fish will get attached onto the hook and you will be able to fish it out. Similarly, like for example, if I have to teach you microbiology and if I say that, you will say, ma'am, if you tell us mnemonics, then only we are going to come and listen to your class. Otherwise, we are not coming for microbio class. So mnemonics are a bait that I am giving to you, that if I give you mnemonics, you will listen to microbio. Similarly, if I give carbon, Nocardia will grow. You know what is the source of carbon? Paraffin is a source of carbon. So point number one, please remember that paraffin is a source of carbon, and that is exactly how we are going to give it paraffin. By giving it paraffin, we are giving it carbon and then it will grow. So we are done with the bad things also. So simple, Nocardia story ho gaya. The good things were that it requires oxygen, it requires or is present in the soil. The bad part of nature was acid rain, so it is 1% acid fast, and secondly the bad part is carbon, so it's going to be grown on paraffin bait technique. But karta kya hai? What exactly does it do? We have two set of people. One are immunocompetent, good, and one are immunocompromised. So when I'm talking about the immunocompetent and the immunocompromised people, let's get going with this one by one. So please note that when I'm talking about the immunocompetent people, well, fit and fine, usually it results in a cutaneous manifestation, right? There are cutaneous ulcers and sinuses that are formed. But when I'm talking about an immunocompromised person, usually it involves the lungs, and if not the lungs, then it will involve the brain. So usually the lungs, and if not the lungs, it will involve the brain. So these organ involvements are seen in immunocompromised people, but in immunocompetent people, we usually tend to see cutaneous involvements. Fine. All of this is done. If you've done this, Actinomyces is now going to be completely opposite. Remember, if Nocardia needed oxygen, Actinomyces is going to be a strict anaerobe. If Nocardia was exogenous in the soil, Actinomyces is endogenous. It's present in the mouth flora. It's normal in the mouth flora. If Nocardia was that acid rain, acid fast, then Actinomyces is going to be non-acid fast. Next, if Nocardia needed that carbon bait, Actinomyces says no. Actinomyces says everything about me is the mouth. Remember, when the word actinomyces comes, the word mouth comes. So what is the normal commensal? It's normally present in the mouth, point number 1. What kind of colonies is it going to show you? Look at this. It's going to show you the molar tooth colony. So have a look at this picture, guys. Firstly, where is actinomyces going to be present? It's going to be present in the mouth. And secondly, look at the colony. Such beautiful, cute little molar teeth have been drawn over here. It's one of the cutest colonies that you'll find. So actinomyces is everything to do with the mouth, be it molar tooth or be it the actinomyces in the mouth. So now you will ask me, what all infections does it cause? There are different types of actinomyces that you have to know. Till now, what you've been reading, mouth wala, is the orocervical. Orocervical means it's going to involve the jaw, the cervix, the neck, cervical neck region and the mouth. This region is going to be affected, and that is referred to as the lumpy jaw. That is referred to as the lumpy jaw. So what is lumpy jaw going to show you? Lumpy jaw is a situation where you will see swelling of the jaw and there will be sinuses. There will be multiple sinuses from which the discharge will be coming out. And you know what kind of discharge will come out? Another S. There will be sulfur granules. There will be sulfur granules that you will be noticing. So repeating, what all is present? There will be a swelling in the jaw, there's going to be sulfur granules, and there is going to be sinuses that are draining it. That is if the orocervical region is affected. Then keep going down. Thoracic involvement can occur. Abdominal involvement can occur, probably following some surgery. Following some kind of surgery, this can definitely be an involvement that you can see. And finally, pelvic. Where pelvic involvement? Actinomyces pelvis. Guys, have I given you an example in pathology of a female using intrauterine contraceptive device and then landing up with actinomyces? Yes, and this is the histopath which is in front of you, be it in any location, orocervical, thoracic, or abdominal, or pelvic. This is how actinomyces looks like. So if you zoom in, yes, it is a gram-positive purple color ka filamentous organism. So the first part is seeming right. I can very well see that there is a gram-positive filamentous organism that is going to be present. But what around it? If you look carefully, there is a pinkish zone around it. Again, if you can zoom in, you will see that there is a pinkish zone around it. You know what is this known as? This pinkish zone is referred to as the Splendor-Hopley phenomenon. This is known as, and the same thing I have taught you in somewhere else also, in path also, and in micro also somewhere else. So this is the Splendor-Hopley phenomenon. And what is it indicative of? It is indicative of an antigen-antibody reaction. So wherever antigen-antibody complexes will form, there this pink color row, Splendor-Hopley phenomenon will occur. Guys, where else have I taught you? In micro only, in mycology, fungus wala chapter I have taught you. Splendor-Hopley phenomenon is also seen with Sporothrix schenki. Over there I told you that Sporothrix and actinomyces. Here I am telling you Sporothrix and actinomyces. So the story is done. Splendor-Hopley phenomenon, pink color line indicative of antigen-antibody reaction. So coming all the way back, I think everyone has identified the differences that you have. Yes, this is going to occur in the jaw. Yes, this is going to have an orocervical actinomyces. I told you the SSS, the swelling with the sinuses and the sulfur granules coming out. All of it is done. We are only left with the treatment aspect of it, and that treatment is learnt by a mnemonic SNAP. What is SNAP? So that you don't get confused. SNAP basically means that if you are dealing with a case of Nocardia, or you are dealing with the case of actinomyces, pehle write the name of the organisms. Okay, Nocardia and actinomyces. Now leftover alphabets. So for Nocardia you have sulfonamides, and for actinomyces you have penicillin. So in the exam, whenever you get confused, pehle write the name of the organism. Nocardia and actinomyces. Nocardia ke liye it is going to be sulfonamides, and actinomyces ke liye it is penicillin. All said and done, before I end, can they occur together? Yes, they can. That is known as actinomycetoma. So remember, actinomycetoma can be a combination of Nocardia and actinomyces occurring together, which looks very similar to the Madura foot or the mycetoma foot. Of course, these are all bacteria, guys. Can there be any fungus also that can cause it? Of course, we have read so many fungal organisms like Madurella, which can cause a similar situation. So now you know how to differentiate. This set is going to be a set of bacteria, gram-positive filamentous bacteria. The other set which can cause it is fungus. So you have to look at it under the microscope and identify. One last thing, there is one actinomyces that you have to know, that is Actinomyces israeli. So first and foremost, when I say Actinomyces israeli, so it has a lot of I's in it, Israeli, hai na? So this is the one that you usually see with I for IUCD users, and this is the one that is going to result in pelvic inflammatory disease. Okay, so IUCD users pelvic inflammatory disease, and remember they have always learnt it as Israel has yellow color sand. That is the mnemonic which is very much followed in USMLE books. Israel has yellow color sand, and yellow color sand basically means that there are going to be what color granules that will come out? There will be yellow sulfur granules that you are going to see in these patients. One last thing, tell me, out of Nocardia and Actinomycetes, which was acid fast? You had said Nocardia nature wala tha, acid rain wala, nature wala was Nocardia. Nocardia was acid fast, Actinomycetes was not acid fast. Can Actinomycetes israeli be acid fast? Sometimes yes. So for this Israel, I've got a lot of things. Sometimes it can have acid rain, sometimes it can have yellow sand. Okay, Israel mein kabhi nature changes can happen. Sometimes it can be acid fast, sometimes it can have yellow granules, and because it has so many eyes, this is seen with IUCD users and with pelvic inflammatory disease. So I hope you'll remember the story of the nature, oxygen, carbon, acid rain and soil, and if you are done, you will be able to finish this very quickly. Moving on to the next organism. The next one that we have is Listeria monocytogenes, another amazing story that I'm going to tell you. We are learning Listeria monocytogenes with the mnemonic. You know, Listeria is Tully. Tully means Listeria seems drunk. Listeria is one of the drunk organisms. And when I say someone is drunk, tell me when someone is drunk, can you help him say A, B, C, D, E, F, G? He will always start stammering, or he will start making mistakes. He will, because he's so drunk, he can't say even ABCD. So Listeria is that drunk person in which ABCD wala test we are going to take for him. So first I'll tell you the mnemonic only. After that, so the story becomes easy. I know the mnemonic is very congested, but it's actually going to give you the best overview of Listeria. So firstly, if someone asks you what is the toxin or what is the virulence factor, common sense, Listeriolysin O. Common sense, okay. What is Tully? You know, this Tully means it shows you tumbling motility. It tends to fall here and there like a drunk person. So it shows you tumbling motility, and it is going to be tumbling at 25 degree but not tumbling at 37 degree. Why? Because at 25 degree it produces a flagella called peritrichous flagella. How do I learn it? See, now abhi to all of you are young. Young mein to you can easily get drunk at the age of 25 years and it's not going to bother you much and your health. But the same thing, if you get drunk at the age of 35 above, it is going to bother your health and your liver a lot. Even though now it will bother your health, but right now you will not bother much about it. When you come to a 35 plus age, then you will start wondering and worrying about your health. So remember, at 25, so it is tumbling and drunk, but at 37 degree, it is not tumbling and not drunk. So that is the T for Tully, drunk, tumbling motility. What is A? This tends to show you an Anton test. What is an Anton test? I'll tell you in a while. B for it shows you beta hemolysis. C for how does this happen? Everything possible. Either you come in contact with some animal, or you have contaminated food, or you have cheese. This is very commonly seen with soft cheese. Also, this tends to grow at 4 degrees. It shows you cold enrichment. So cold food, refrigerated food is the history given. This shows you 2 C tests, that is CAMP and catalase positive. Next, patients are going to come up with diarrhea. How are you going to do the diagnosis? E for ELISA. F, I've already told you flagella hota hai, but flagella at 25, not at 37. And this is very commonly seen in something to do with F for female wala conditions. Like Listeria infection will occur in pregnant females. Pregnant females mein abortions kara dega. Neonates mein it can cause neonatal infection. And finally, so F say female and their children problems I have kept. G for I have kept, it causes specially something in children called granulomatous infantisepticum. So infanti will tell me bacche. G for granulomatous. And now when I go from G back to A, the A and G tell me the treatment. It is treated by ampicillin plus gentamicin. Beautiful mnemonic, isn't it? It took me almost half an hour to make it. So this is the Tully A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And now if you've done this, rest of it you just have to listen to me quickly. What kind of motility does it have? You will say, ma'am, it has a differential motility, tumbling motility, and you are saying that it is going to be moving around and Tully at 25 years of age, but not Tully and not tumbling at 37 years of age. So motile at 25 degree, not motile at 37 degree. Why is it motile? Because of a peritrichous flagella. Next, if I ask you that what are the modes of spread, you had said all the CCC. Either it is by contact with animals, or it is by contaminated food, or it is by consuming all the cheesy products. All the CCC were the spreads. Now, when I ask you what is going to be the virulence factor, I have already told you it is Listeriolysin O, and Listeriolysin O is going to show you beta hemolysin properties also. So B was for beta hemolysis. Now, if I ask you what are the clinical features, I told you, na, D said diarrhea. This patient is going to have diarrhea, And F से I told you all the female and उनके बच्चों वाला problem. तो females में of course pregnancy, it will result in stillbirth, abortions, premature rupture of membranes, and उनके बच्चों वाला problem क्या है? बच्चे will have sepsis, meningitis, and G से I told you बच्चों can have granulomatous infanti septicum also. So that mnemonic is beautiful. How do you do the lab diagnosis? Again, what sample will you take? That will depend. A problem किसमें है? Is the female having a problem, cervical, vaginal, or is there a child having a problem, cord blood, meconium, बच्चे में meningitis है, you take CSF. So whatever the patient has a complaint, you take a sample. What hemolysis? B से क्या था? It shows you beta hemolysis. Then I told you at what temperature is it gonna grow? I told you cold enrichment. It tends to grow at 4 degrees. Let me tell you a story. I don't know how many of you read about it, but a very famous frozen yogurt chain was shut down in America because frozen yogurt, of course, it's at low temperatures. They found that Listeria growth was seen. Listeria growth was noted in that frozen yogurt chain, and then they had to shut it down all pan America. So because this tends to grow at a cold temperature. Also, they will say that there is a mother who's cooking food and she was heating food. So she took the food out of the refrigerator. She just tasted it. Before heating it, she tasted it, and then she ended up heating the food and giving it to her family. So when the family ate food, the food had been heated. So the family did not have any problem, but she had taken it out of the refrigerator and had a bite before heating it. This means she will have a problem. So this 4 degree wala story is very interesting. So C for cold enrichment. What C? I also told you it is CAMP test and catalase positive. CAMP test you have also done somewhere else, guys. Finally, the story is done. Remember gala camp? I told you gala camp, you're going to have a gala time in the camp. Now that gala mnemonic is firstly agalacti. We had said streptococcus agalacti is going to show you the camp test, and now this Listeria is also gala time, Tully and gala time. So this Listeria also shows you camp test. Okay, next it is catalase positive, fine. Then it is A for antigen test positive. Now you will ask me, what is antigen test? Antigen test is something in which you will take an antigen test, is basically an for animal. It is an animal test in which you are going to take the rabbit's eyes and you are going to put this Listeria into it. And this rabbit eye will end up having not just conjunctivitis for that matter, you will end up having keratoconjunctivitis. You will end up having keratoconjunctivitis in the eye of this rabbit. Is this similar to what you have studied, or maybe you're gonna study in the future? You're also gonna study something known as the Sereny test. And Sereny test, as I say, Sereny test is done for entero-invasive E. coli. Entero-invasive E. coli shows you Sereny test. Usme bhi same hai. Rabbit ke eye mein you will inject and you will get keratoconjunctivitis. So remember, some animal eye you will take, you will inject Listeria and get keratoconjunctivitis. That is known as antigen test. If you inject entero-invasive E. coli and get keratoconjunctivitis, that is Sereny test for E, eye wala. Finally, with E, I had told you the serology that we use is Eliza, what is the treatment that I told you? The A and G. You were gonna give ampicillin and gentamicin, guys. So ultimately, I realized the rest of the story was so useless. If I have done this Tully A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it is so nice. Do you want to repeat it? Yes. So Tully tumbling at 25 degrees, not at 37 degrees. So 25 kg mein, but not at 37. Okay, why? Because there is a peritrichous flagella that is formed. A for antigen test, वो animal वाला test. B for beta hemolysis. C for what all? How does it happen? Contact with animals, contaminated food, cheese, especially cold temperature 4 degree story, very important. Camp test positive, catalase positive. Patients have diarrhea. Patients are also going to be females with problems in their pregnancy. There can be problems in bachas, that is neonates. There can be granulomatous infanti septicum. For the diagnosis, I will use E for